If I told you one thing could change our world, stop wars, show people that we care for each other, make things actually closer to the way that they should be, would you believe me? Probably not. I mean, we've tried a lot of things, but Martine Wilson is going to argue that just maybe, the thing is generosity. She is from Generosity Path, the director of Generosity Path, and he's going to talk to us about the fact that if we all actually practice generosity, our world would be different. And you know what? I think she's probably right. Let's have a chat with Martine Wilson. Martine, thank you so much for being in the studio with us.
Yeah, it's great to be with you and your listeners today, Clayton. Thanks for having me.
Better start off with, what is Generosity Path? And then we might follow up a little bit around your journey. But first of all, sort of the 20 seconds on Generosity Path, and we'll come back and dig deeper a bit later on.
Yeah, sure. Well, Generosity Path, we are helping Christians to discover the joy and freedom of living a generous life. We want to empower every Christian in every country to live radically generous lives for Jesus.
Love that. It's a big aim.
Yeah.
It's also an aim that sort of has within it this feeling of, the sentiment feels very up and bright. There has a deep challenge in it too, right? Like just in the automatic part of it as well. As you sort of read that out and people hear what you do, what's the first reactions that most people have as they hear what what's she about to give me?
I think people feel surprised to hear the words joy and freedom connected to generosity.
Yeah.
I think often people's first reaction, I mean in Australia anyway, our first reaction to the word generosity might be a closing up, oh, please don't talk to me about money, you're going to ask me for something. But yeah, our emphasis really is on finding joy and freedom in what God has to say about generosity.
And so to help, as we understand more, Generosity Path isn't necessarily like an organisation that's saying, hey, would you give us money so we can do some work? It's your actual job is to say, how do we inspire you to just be generous, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're fully privately funded by givers who believe in the power of giving to heal the world. Yeah. And so, we're not fundraising at all. Yeah. And in fact, we have something for people. We don't want anything from them. Yeah. We're here to serve the global church and to bless it. So that's pretty amazing to be working with Generosity Path.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to come back and dig a bit more into Generosity Path, how it came about, how we actually do it in a moment. But I want to start with your story first as well. So to be working in a place like this, there must be some sort of story of your own of understanding generosity. What does that mean? How does that work? How far back does that sort of, if you think about that part of your world, actually, where do you think your generosity understanding and exploration of that start?
Yeah, great question. I think particularly it started as a teenager. I grew up at St Hilary's Church in Kew, and I remember at that time hearing often stories of people living out their faith in really radical and authentic ways, both in Australia but also abroad, and heard stories and connected in at that time to Tear Fund Australia and the movement of Christians who wanted to, they talked about living simply so that others could simply live, and that really stayed with me. And I think it was at that time that God really, I was taking on my faith for myself, and it was at that time that I think God really sowed in me this desire to be part of something big to change the world. And so hearing stories of what Christians were giving up to go and live abroad to share the gospel were also stories that really resonated with me at that time.
So, and I mean, that's a great time during your teens, I think, to be challenged in that way. That's wonderful, because I think, it's such a solidifying situation of your thoughts, ideas, and where it is. How did that then play out as you sort of then stepped into working life and those sorts of things?
Yeah, well, I studied commerce and law at university and did wonder a few times, what path does God have for me in this? And just kept coming back to him and asking that. And I did have the chance to start out in corporate law for a few years, but I also had the opportunity to be part of like pro bono work and community engagement work, which really was what made my heart sing. I then had the chance to spend a year volunteering with International Justice Mission as a lawyer in India, and that profoundly shaped me.
In what ways?
I think, not only seeing the immense need of the most vulnerable people that they were trying to rescue from situations of slavery and oppression, but also seeing the dedication and the really lavish offering of the Christians that were serving at IJM over many, many, many years to fight this one issue of injustice that God had put on their hearts. So that real surrender of their lives to what God was calling them into was really impacted me.
Yeah. I know you use that word forming. I'm a big believer in the idea that we're all being formed into something, right? It's what are we being formed into, right?
Yeah.
Things are forming us into something spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's all occurring, and for you to put yourself in that situation, I suppose it helped shape you into that idea of how do I look beyond, I suppose, is one of those things. Was there other things that things that have carried you forward now as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think, growing up in Melbourne to then spend a year living in Chennai and working with an organisation that was seeking to change lives of the most vulnerable, the most oppressed. It was really confronting, just thinking about the needs of the world. And so I think, I continue to have that drive that God placed in my heart as a teenager of I can't see that and just leave it. I want to see change. I want to see the world different. It's great.
So that leads us nicely back to Generosity Path, right? Which is part of the heartbeat of what that is around saying that there is actually change that can occur through generosity. And it's not just somebody's idea. I'd imagine that, certainly if we look through the Bible and we'd certainly look through the teaching of Jesus, it's everywhere.
It is.
Around that. And perhaps we've not quite understood the shaping that generosity can actually make in both the giver and the person who is receiving that gift. Could you take us through how Generosity Path actually commenced? Where was that sort of first idea to say, look, we want to start something that's not actually going to ask for money, but it's going to encourage others to give or their time, their money, and who they are?
Yeah, well, we came out of our sister organisation in the US called Generous Giving, and it was a group of Christians who were friends and were spending time together and realised that actually this part of their lives and their faith, what they did with their money especially, was something that they never talked about. And so they started to talk about it, and they discussed together the importance of having a safe space where they could talk about their faith and what they were doing with their time and their money, and spur one another on in that. And so they came up with a course called A Journey of Generosity, and that was in the early 2000s. The Journey of Generosity has been shared with thousands of people all over the world. Generosity Path was birthed in about 2017. I mean, you don't need the details, but we were birthed around 2017 to share the Journey of Generosity with the rest of the world.
Nice.
So we have a team of about 30 located all around the world, and we are trying to spark movements of generosity in every country of the world by the end of 2027, which isn't far away.
No.
We've hit 122 countries that we have seen the start of a generosity movement forming and shaping the communities there.
And what's your definition of a movement, like a generosity movement? How do you go, well, that's what we mean by that?
Yeah, we have some kind of measures of that. I mean, the first thing would be that there's a community who go through the Journey of Generosity course. And then what we are trying to do is pray and ask for God's eyes to see who are the people that this message is really resonating with. Great. And then we train them up as catalysts who then are inspired and equipped to go and share the Journey of Generosity, or JOG we call it for short, to go and share that Journey of Generosity. And the other thing that we're trying to catalyse in terms of the movement is helping people actually to consider what it would look like for them to start giving together. And now this could be in terms of time, it could be an act of service, or it could be giving financially together. And so we invite people to consider forming a giving group in their local area that is going to consider some of the needs of their community and start living out generosity as a group. So that's one of the other signs of growing a movement, that we start to see some of these groups form and start shaping society.
That's wonderful. You've talked about this Journey of Generosity as well, and so it's sort of course related, it's concept related. I think it's about the heart as well, all of that. What is the actual Journey of Generosity? What's the components of that, I suppose?
Yeah, well, it's about a journey of our head, heart and hands, and it's a course very similar in style and format to the Alpha course. So there's different sessions that can be run over weeks in a home group, or can be run as a one-day thing. And each session is made up of some content from the Bible, discussion time, and stories of generous givers from around the world. People who are living this out in different ways, in different contexts.
Nice.
So from developing countries, from developed countries. I'd love to share with you about some of the stories, but that's the format. It's all packaged up in a video, so it's really easy for anyone to run. It's all free. Anyone can go on to the generositypath.org website, create an account and access the Journey of Generosity as a tool. It's a discipleship tool to grow people in their understanding of our God, who is a generous God. That's at the core of who he is, and that's... So to understand that afresh, and then through the stories and discussion time to think about, what does this look like for me? What's God saying to me? And how can I take steps to start to live this out in small ways, or maybe huge ways, after the Journey of Generosity?
Love it. We are going to be back in a couple of moments with Martine Wilson from Generosity Path, talking about some of those stories, because we love that on this program. We don't want to just talk about the actual thing that it is, but then how do we hear the live stories? So we're going to hear some of those inspiring stories, and some of the stories of people's lives who have been changed by going through the Journey of Generosity. That's on the way next here on Towards Understanding.
Share your brand, your event, your message across 90 Christian radio stations and major cities in Australia and New Zealand by sponsoring Towards Understanding, hosted by Clayton Bielen. More than 210,000 people tune into Towards Understanding each week, and with just one sponsorship, you'll reach this immense engaged audience. Find out more about this exciting and unique opportunity now on the sponsorship page at positivemedia.com.au.
Let's hear some of the stories now too. There's two sort of stories I'd love to hear, Martine. One is, firstly, some of the stories that are told or that are used in the generosity path. So the examples of people who may be able to inspire others. Now, obviously, we can't cover all of them. That's why you've got the whole journey and the path and the videos and all that sort of thing. But is there one or two that especially jump out to you that you always love sharing?
Yeah, thanks, Clayton. In the Journey of Generosity, we have a lot of really great stories told from really different contexts in the world. The the first story that we show is called A Handful of Rice, and it really deals with that common barrier, I guess, a lot of people have when we talk about generosity of, I don't have anything to give, or I'll give later when I have more, when I've worked out my current financial situation. And so what we see in A Handful of Rice is a community in northeast India in the state of Mizoram who started this practice in 1904.
Wow.
The Christians, there weren't many Christians at the time in Mizoram, and they started this practice that every time they would cook a meal in their home, they would scoop out a handful of rice and set it aside as an offering to God. And so each day they would do this practice morning and night. And in the story, they talk about how this wasn't just giving, it was shaping their hearts as they made that offering to God, and that it brought them joy as they did this practice each day. You also see how children are part of this practice, and that they can feel the rice in their hands and know that they're surrendering that to God for what He wants to do with it. You see the rice being given to their church there, and the church then went through a range of different things. They would sell the rice on to people in the community at a much lower rate who couldn't afford it at the market rate. They also started a bunch of programs in their church, and so this was like back early 1900s, but they started a school, they started a bunch of different things, even sent out missionaries with the money that they raised from the handful of rice. And we did an update on this story. We filmed an update to this story last year, and it was just amazing to hear the cumulative impact of something so small, just a handful of rice. It's not even half a cup. Yeah. And they talk about how in 1904 that added up to about $1 for the diocese that was running this program, and by 2024 it had cumulatively added up to nearly $24 million.
Wow.
And the other thing that they share is that now 95% of the population of Mizoram are Christians.
Incredible. And
so it's incredible, because you think, oh gosh, and I think that I don't have enough. And they say in the story, one woman says, as long as I have food to eat every day, I have something to give to the Lord every day and to share with Him. So that's really challenging.
Yeah, I love that. There's also, some people love the stats too. And my understanding is the statistics are that if you can give when you have a little, you are much more likely to keep giving when you have more, right? If you're waiting to give when you've just got more, you probably won't, or you won't actually be as generous as you could be. We have this weird mindset that says, I must wait until I have enough.
Yeah.
But actually it all works the other way, right? And I think this is a whole part of, as we, again, read the Bible and Jesus' teachings, He talks about that idea of, as you give, God will supply your needs and those that you're helping as well. And it's such a fundamental principle to try and understand, to say, wherever we are right now, right here, right today, how we are, what is the bit that we can give right now to change others' lives for the better? It's the perfect starting place, wherever you are right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's about changing others' lives, but it also is about our hearts, isn't it? Because it's really a heart issue.
Yes.
What our attitude towards how we use our time and our talents and our treasure. And so, I mean, that's the thing that really spoke to me through the journey of generosity when I first went through it. It was that, well, everything that I have is God's. I'm not the owner. I'm a steward of everything that He's given me, and He's given up everything. He gave us His Son. He didn't hold back His Son from us. And so, what does it look like for me to live as a follower of His? It means to hold my hands open with those things that He's put in my life and ask Him, what are you asking me to do as your steward? Yeah.
And it's an exciting journey. Like, can I just say, like, you are beaming as you talk about it, Martine. My wife and myself, as we've gone on a journey of trying to challenge ourselves to be generous, and we constantly feel like we're being challenged, but it's always joyous as it occurs. And I know certainly many radio stations that this program is on, they run through the generosity of others, and there's never been a time that I've heard somebody ring up and give to the radio station and say, "Oh, I wish I hadn't actually done it." They're always, I love the fact that I'm a part of this. I love that I'm part of sharing hope and positivity and the love of Jesus through my city. And so there is something about that as well.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah. Like, God's wired us up that way, that we get this, this really buzzy, happy feeling. Like we've actually got less after we've given, but we feel good about it.
That's right. we have more of something else, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we also talk about a story of those who have gone through the journey of generosity pathway? So they've gone perhaps through this course, and they've had these conversations. They're in a group perhaps, and then their life has changed, and there's such joy and hope and purpose, perhaps much more than they had previously. Is there stories like that you love sharing? I'd love to hear some.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're seeing really remarkable change happen as people are going through the journey of generosity and having time and space where God has moved in their hearts, and then they have time and space to consider, what does it look like for me to be intentional about this and to take some steps in community. So at the moment, what we're seeing in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, in across Cairo in Egypt, also in quite affluent parts of Southeast Asia, we're seeing churches really mobilised by going through the journey of generosity and people feeling. I'll just go back for a minute. Last year we introduced an interactive generosity plan that people can use, a tool that they can use during the journey of generosity, where they uncover or perhaps come back to what are the passions and purposes that God has put on their heart, their unique passions, purpose, giftings, and how could they be using that to live more generously. And what we're seeing is that people are getting really excited. You mentioned excitement before, getting really excited to have more clarity in how God's wired them up and what He wants them to be doing in the world, and then having space in their churches to have conversations with others about that and think, oh, wow, okay, what could we do together to respond to this issue that we're seeing in our church community or that we're seeing in our neighbourhood. And then what we're seeing is that people are forming what we're calling giving groups to start journeying together on serving together. So that might be serving in programs that their churches are already running, or it could be connecting in with something with an organisation in their community and spending time to use their gifts together, or giving money together, pooling money together for causes that they're shared passions that they want to see change. So that's really exciting, seeing that taking off.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're still in the quite early days of that in Australia. So, people are just hearing about the journey of generosity, for some of them for the first time here. I had a pastor describe it to me recently as one of the best kept secrets in small group resourcing opportunities. So, we're just praying that more people would find out about it and would use it, and it would be a blessing to them.
I love your boldness with it, by the way, too, Martine, because we believe this can change the world. This is not a look, this would be helpful. Like it actually can change the world. And I think that there is something about this. Like there seems to be the absolute core part, and we understand there's a lot of people who are listening who have a strong faith in Jesus and follow him, and others who maybe don't have any connection to a faith or a church, and maybe you're trying to grapple with what it is. But really the deep heart of Jesus beating through and of God is of generosity, as you mentioned earlier on. But he gave so much to us and desires us to be like him in that generosity from what it is. And so I suppose I can't possibly commend people enough to go and check out this idea, right? At least, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? All right, you go and have a look at the website and you think about it a bit more. The best thing might be you go on one of these generosity paths, or you get together in a group and go from there. So let me give you that website, generositypath.org, generositypath.org, and there's a whole host of information there, and you can find out a bit more about that as well, and go through what that might be in a challenging concept of what it is, but also, I think especially to say, how do I actually have more joy in my life? Right? It does start with that challenge, but like any good thing, the challenge turns into a great joy as well. And so I think that's the hope that I'm certainly hearing from you anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the wonderful thing about a gift is that it's so much more than a gift. It's got this kind of inbuilt power to replicate. Yeah. And I think we all have felt that when we've been blessed by someone doing something generous towards us. You feel seen, you feel, you just feel this joy planted in you that then you want to pass on to someone else. Yep. So we really believe in the power of generosity, changing the world, because it's infectious, and so we just want to scale that up.
Absolutely.
We just want to scale that up, and to see that really, release more funds for kingdom work here in Australia, around the world, to inspire and release more people to serve in their churches and abroad. And to see people become Christians, because what we're seeing is that when unbelievers are seeing the Christians living out their faith in this way,
so good.
They are asking questions and they want to find out about Jesus. And we are seeing people become Christians because of, the believers living as salt and light. Living as Jesus calls us to live. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Martine, mostly for heading up all of what the work is through Oceania, through Generosity Path, but also, again, for your time today and encouraging us to think about what generosity might be and how our generosity can increase, how our joy can increase, and how our world can be better through each of us in that way. So thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure. Well, I'm here to serve. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, don't hesitate. Martine at generositypath.org, or you can find us on the socials. Yeah, generositypath.org. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Generosity Path, what an incredible idea and a concept. Martine Wilson, my guest here on Towards Understanding.